Hello, hello. Here we are again, coming to you from Broadcast Team Alpha with the Paranormal World Show. And my name is Aage, and I'm the host here tonight. And we are coming to you from 44 different platforms around the world. And one of them is the Conscious Awakening Network. You got to go over there and visit those guys. They have on that platform, they have 50 different shows or so about that. And they have shows on absolutely everything that you and me need to know about. So go to consciousawakeningnetwork.org and have a good look. You're going to like it. You're going to like it. And before I introduce the guest, I want to let you know how you can connect with me and Nori. Go to broadcastteamalpha.com, and there's a place there where you can send us a message. We'll get the email and we'll get back to you and see what we can strike up an interesting conversation or help you with something. So we are totally available to everybody who wants to contact us. And yes, we have Terry Tibando returning to Broadcast Team Alpha and the Paranormal World Show. And we had some fun here before the show. He was putting together some pictures, and this is going to be interesting because we are going to talk about what is on Mars and what is on Pluto and other things. You know, shows, they tend to take off a life of their own and head off into the weeds sometime. And I like it in the weeds. Good things come from there. Anyway, here's a few things about Terry. And he's an active UFO and ETI researcher. The I stands for intelligence. And one of Canada's leading experts on what is going on in the sky. He had his own experiences, and we may end up talking about that too. And he spoke at the National MUFON Symposium and has been on the Discovery Channel, TV stations, and many radio and podcasts all over the place. And you will find him on Facebook. And go there and look it up because he's got some really interesting stuff there on Facebook. And well, we're going to talk about Mars and Pluto. Maybe we'll do that first. And with that, I want to welcome you back to the show here.
Thank you very much, Aage. It's great to be back and to talk to you again. I think we got an exciting show ahead of us.
Yeah, I'm all ears actually, because this is something that is close to my heart because I've seen some pictures and I think you got some new ones now. And that is just mind-blowing. So where in the world do you want to start with this?
Well, let me just sort of preface everything that a lot of this information comes from my 6-volume textbook series called A Citizen's Disclosure on UFOs and ETI. And it's literally everything you could possibly want to know about the phenomena of UFOs, unidentified flying objects, and extraterrestrial intelligence. And when I did the research on it, I was literally turning over every stone that had some connection or bearing to this phenomena. And I wanted to know what scientists said, what people in religion said, what the common feeling was in the public. Was there a cover-up? Is there reverse engineering? Were they exploring planets and looking for water, as they say, or for life forms, or even for alien technology? And it seems like they were doing all of that. And so you can find those interesting topics within my 6-volume collection, Citizens Disclosure on UFOs and ETI. You can order it online from any bookstore, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Booktopia, Book World, Hudson. Indigo and Chapters in Canada, those last two. And yeah, they're like a university textbook. In fact, when I was down in MUFON symposium in Dallas, Texas this past July, I was approached by a NASA doctor, and she was looking through these books, and she said, you know, these are some of the best books I've seen to date on this subject. And she said, I've seen a lot, but you've got it so well organized. Everything is referenced, including the text of where I got the information from, all the pictures, hundreds of colored photographs. So if you're interested in a good, solid read where you use these volumes as a reference manual to see what other people are saying, you'll find that I've already sort of dug deep into it. So that's where this information is coming from.
Good deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Citizens disclosure on UFOs and ETI.
Correct. Correct. Thank you. Yeah. So I thought we kind of do a little mini astronomy session here. And it's based on how I approach astronomy. I took astronomy at university for a couple of years, and I didn't get a degree in it, but I learned a lot, and I got a factual basis of how to research information. And one of the things that I did was, as a member of the Baha'i faith, I was looking through some of their books, and I came across a quote that's very interesting. And it says, this was written by Baha'u'llah over 150 plus years ago. So this is way ahead before a lot of people are discussing these types of topics. And he said, know thou that every fixed star, meaning a stable star, hath its planets, and every planet its creatures, whose number no man can compute. Now that's a very intriguing statement, because we know that there were astronomers out there and they're looking at stars and planets and perhaps galaxies and what have you. And there may be a consideration of, could there be life on these other planets? We went through the stage of thinking at one time in the Middle Ages that the Earth was the center of the universe. And when we had people like Giordano Bruno, who came out and said, and Galileo also, who said, well, you know, it seems to be that the sun's the center of our solar system, and that the planet Earth and all the other planets revolve around it, and not the other way where the Earth is the center. And yet, in astronomy, there's still that type of thinking going on by professional people. And one of the things that I have found is that when you still think of looking for planets that are what they call,
there you go.
Okay, now we're cooking.
Now we're getting somewhere.
Right. Okay. So this is an image of our solar system minus the asteroid belt. If you look at the bottom of this, you'll see what astronomers postulate as the zone of habitability. It's that little green area between Venus and Mars. And Earth seems to be in the right place and has the right conditions, like water. We have seasons, and we have various life forms, and we're the right distance from the sun. Now, the Baha'is take the point of view, well, wait a minute, we're still thinking that the Earth is the golden mean by which we judge everything, and it's not. Baha'u'llah says the sun is stable. If it's stable, that means that there's going to be planets which will also reach a point of stability in their evolvement. And by that stability, life will begin to appear on these planets, regardless of how close or how far away. But NASA says, well, if you're somewhere between Venus and the sun, the conditions are too hot. There's a runaway greenhouse effect, or there's no atmosphere, or it's too extreme in the way of heat, such as Mercury and Venus. If you go to where the Earth is and maybe move out towards Mars, Mars is considered to have the potential to uh, evolve life on it. If you move towards Jupiter and Saturn and all the other planets, you're reaching what they consider to be a cold zone, that nothing could be habitable. Yet, when we have sent out space probes, such as the Cassini probe or the Huygens probe or the Horizon probe, we find that certain moons of these outer planets have either atmosphere, ice on it, or they shoot geysers of water off the surface into space, indicating there may be water out there. However, Baha'u'llah says it doesn't matter what the condition is of that planet, it will have its own particular life form. And we only have to look at our own Earth and find that we have what they call extremophile life forms that can live deep down in the bottoms of the ocean near volcanic vents. We have found that there can be life forms in very cold, icy conditions, such as in northern latitudes or even in southern latitudes like the Antarctic. Antarctic obviously has penguins and seals and other life forms living on the ice. So that's a very hardy type of life form. But there could be even microbes in the ice. If you
look at it this way, to look at Earth, we have life forms. Lake Vostok in Antarctica, 2 miles under the ice, there's a life down there. So
exactly,
yeah, it should be the same anywhere else.
Well, that's an indication that if we can have life forms in those extreme conditions, and we observe other planets with extreme conditions, are we going to rule out that there's no life there because we humans can't survive in that climate? That's the anthropocentric type of thinking. That's medieval. And what we have to wrap our heads around is life does not have to look like us, does not necessarily have to be even based on the types of life that we have. We will even find life in little puddles or little ponds in a desert. How does life get into that water in the middle of a desert? Makes no sense, yet it's there, little fish. And so this gives an idea of what we have to expect, that when we go out into the universe, we're not going to look for Earth-like planets, which is what NASA is currently doing. They're saying, oh, exoplanets. And we're looking at planets that have, and I'll see if I can pull this up because it's worth looking at. And can you see that okay?
No, same thing as before.
Okay, so what we're looking at here is when we go beyond Pluto, beyond the Kepler belt and the Oort cloud that surrounds our solar system, which is debris of comets and meteorites and asteroids and chunks of rock and ice and et cetera, and then in amongst the Kepler belt will be other what they call minor planets or moons, and they consider Pluto a moon. I'm one of those people who are on the fence about that. I still think it's a planet for a number of reasons, and absolutely. It may be a small planet.
Yeah, they had it right the first time.
Yeah, because it has an atmosphere, and it has different types of terrain, and it has moons rotating around it. So those are all the same values that we place on planets on the inner solar system. In fact, certain planets like Mercury and Venus do not have moons. So what are they? Are they less than a planet, or are they a planet but they have to be a certain size? I think this is one of those things in science that we're going to find as we explore that not only is there life out in the universe, and it may be on a gigantic scale in many ways, but as we look towards the microcosm, we're going to discover life on what we think are just atoms and electrons and protons. And that's
also if we read the Sumerian tablets, they're calling the planets 1, 2, 3, 4 from the outside, and then Pluto is planet number 1, and then they go in. So Mercury is number 9 instead of number 1 as we have it.
Well, this is the whole point. And like, when you look at these images here, you'll see that there's the Earth, and we have a Kepler 442b, which is a planet that may be similar to Earth, but much larger. This is an exoplanet. Again, when we look at the possible situation of where this other planet is located many light years away, it has a sun, and again, it's considered Earth-like. And I think the reason when we say Earth-like is because it has similar features and conditions. Does that mean that intelligent life on that is going to be the same as ours? That's like playing the lotto, where you're trying to get the right number, hoping that you're going to be the winner. And yet, it's an astronomical figure that your chances of winning. And I think this is what we're going to find out. When you look at the bottom right image, and you need to perhaps blow this up, but when you look at it, you'll find that there's a band that runs right through the middle of these planets, and I believe they considered that the Goldilocks zone for that particular planet. Here we go. That's a little larger. So, and again, it's based on that thinking that planets have to be just the right distance away from their star. If the star is not in a proto state, which is a state of initial development where it's spinning its gases, it's all kinds of debris, and the planets have not yet formed. There's like a massive swirl of debris, almost like a disk floating or rotating around in space. As the sun stabilizes and gravity is established, and the debris that circulates or rotates around the star system also coalesce and develops its own magnetic fields, then they form planets. Once all of that has stabilized, life will start to take hold on those planets. And that's the whole point behind this, that we have to start considering life forms are going to be so unique to each particular planet that we may not even recognize it if we encounter it sometime in the future. They may even encounter us and think, this is not a life form. This is an animal that seems to be running around doing chaotic activity.
Yeah, but there's another thinking in here somewhere, and that is that let's take Pluto. It is extremely cold out there, but let's say that there's an internal heat source, or any heat source. If there were life forms like us, they could build a dome that will contain that life source, and they could live there.
Yes, and that's the whole point, is that we've got to look at the fact that and a life form doesn't have to necessarily be intelligent. It could be a plant form, life form. It could be aquatic. It could be avian. It could be even gaseous, for all we know. And we only have to look at the diversity on our own planet to see that. Now, in this image here, I don't know, again, if you're seeing what I'm seeing. Just give me a second here because I want to make sure that we're getting the right image.
Yeah, we got 4 pictures on here.
Okay, and
There we go.
this
New.
this
That's new.
this is Pluto.
Okay.
All right. So I want to show this initially, and then we'll go back and we'll explore what Mars is offering to our scientists. This is Pluto, and this is a terrific image. This is I believe it's done with infrared, so you get this kind of coloring and modeling and what have you. But that's what we're seeing when we look at Pluto. In the past, it was just a smear of browns and tan colors and maybe a bit of white. And we couldn't really get a definition until we had the Horizon Space Probe fly by it, photographing it and photographing its moon Charon, which is in the bottom image on the bottom left. We also see in the bottom right a high resolution of the atmosphere around Pluto. So it does have an atmosphere.
That I've never seen before.
Yeah. And I think this was very startling when people, and particularly scientists, saw this for the first time, because we thought of Pluto as just a barren, cold, dead rock of a planet, probably icy, and that's that. And now we're discovering, yeah, it actually has an atmosphere to it. And this atmosphere will probably, this is another indication of stability of a planet. You're not going to have much of an atmosphere if it's still in the state of being a protoplanet. And so what we find here is that we know that Mars even has an atmosphere, and that's being indicated and shown in various photographs. But I wanted to show you this one because obviously it has that. And we've got a section up here that shows the various terrains, the mountains and the hills and the icy surface, etc.
Yeah, if you take the one in the upper right-hand side and the right section of that, if you blow that up, what does those things look like? Is it mountainous or is it rocks or?
Well, let's see if I can do that. It looks like I can.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, okay.
So, yeah. And, there's a lot of color and rocky formation in that. How much of that is true color? I have no idea. I know that there was some infrared film. A lot of times things are done in black and white, and then they translate that or snap it in color as well. So this is one section. It looks like it's in the southern hemisphere of Pluto. The area that we're going to be looking at later is this area that looks like a heart shape, which is an icy field.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to be looking at, because I think there's life forms there.
Mm-hmm.
So let's look at what Mars is offering to us. And I'm going to start with, if I can find it here. Okay. Now, and again, I have to click to get the right image. And there we go. Do you see a red plane?
Oh, yes. Those are some good ones.
Yes. Okay. Now, these are not in any particular order. Most of us who have watched the landing of the rovers on Mars and its travels will recognize the one in the top right, which is taken by NASA's Curiosity rover with its right mass cam. And this is the Gale crater. Now, as it's traveling along, it's photographing everything around it and down and what have you. And this was one of the objects that it photographed. And it was unusual because if it's a rock, it's an unusual rock, but it's more than just that, because below that you see a close-up of it, and it has like either a turret or something like that with a hole running through it. It's almost as if it's like the top of a tank.
Mhm.
And that's very hard to explain because nature doesn't create anomalies like that or geological formations like that. That's something that seems to be artificial. And
Yeah.
we want to jump on that and say, well, wait a minute, that's done by intelligence. Well, we've yet to prove that, but artificiality usually is an indication of intelligence.
Yeah, we could maybe somebody will say that, yeah, but from all the possibilities in nature, there's somewhere between 1 in 14 trillion chance that it could be. So I'm going to
True.
go with a 1.
And, that's also interesting that you bring that up because um, I think it was Carl Sagan that said that nature does not create geometric forms. But now I'm starting to change my mind on that because I'm seeing various landforms and geological shapes that look organic.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, did somebody carve that or did nature actually create that? A good example is the orchid. Now, that's a sophisticated life form, more so than the rock, because the orchid can have different flower shapes and arrangements. Some of them can look like monkey faces, and I
Yeah.
have images of that. Some of them look like little men, with their sexual organs hanging down below what looks like 2 legs and 2 arms. So I'm thinking, okay, is somebody playing a trick on me, or is this real? And apparently, orchids have that ability to come up with some unusual shapes. I've seen fruit growing in trees that have shapes that are not round or pear shaped, but almost like they have appendages off the fruit, as if they're somewhat humanoid.
Yeah.
So the thing is, I got a feeling, and I believe that there are people out there who would say, planets are living entities. The Earth is a living entity, and we have a name for it. The name for it is Gaia. Gaia is the spirit of the Earth.
Yeah.
Mars has uh, uh, a spirit as well. Venus is female. Mars is male. Earth is female.
Yeah. And
So
for right now, for those of you that joined us late, we are talking with Terry Tibando. We're talking about what's on Mars, what's on.
correct.
For right now, we're talking about Mars, and we visited Pluto a little while ago, and we showed some pictures. So if you just came in right now, make sure you go back and get the whole thing from the beginning. There's some really interesting stuff here. So, okay, we're back, Terry.
Okay, so we're just going through some of the photographs that I was able to find. This next one on the right is it looks definitely artificial. I mean, you don't find rocks with protuberances or things hanging down or with square holes in them. And so this, in my estimation, is something that's artificial. In conjunction with that image, there are other anomalies that are very unusual, that are organic. But this appears to be some form of machinery, perhaps a transportation device like a land cruiser. It could be, because it's the Gale crater, it could be a mini submarine or even a spacecraft. So you can let your imagination run wild here, but it's definitely artificial. And I explored that a little deep more because there is a turret on this device, or this anomaly, and not too far away is another piece of anomaly that also has a turret, and it also has a hole in it. And if you take that and you flip it, and then you move it over to where this craft is, it fits right in, and it looks very similar to what's already there. It's like Luke Skywalker's Land Cruiser with its guns on the front and its jet engine or rocket on the back end. So, again, to take something that's which you don't think is a part of another object and find out that it looks like it fits there is very unusual. So this is another confirmation that this is an anomaly that we're looking at.
Wow.
So these anomalies start showing up in other forms. For instance, wherever a Mars rover is traveling, whether it's Odyssey, Spirit, or Curiosity, etc., running around, there's something always in the background that seems to be following it.
Yeah.
And what we're noticing here is some kind of orb. And this orb is in the distance. I have other photographs that show you have to really blow up the photograph, enlarge it, and you'll find that there's one or two little orbs in the background. Now, there's a mega, what is it, a gigabyte pixel, I think it is, or that shows a valley area. But down in the valley, off to one area, there's this white little pixelated image. When you blow it up, it's an orb. And now the interesting thing about this one is it has a shadow underneath, indicating that it has some kind of a round curvature to it, and that it may actually either, if it's not sitting on the ground, it must be hovering just above the ground.
That's interesting.
Yes. That's just one of many images that I have. Another one is this other image, which is definitely hovering above what looks like a stone head. And the rover is obviously looking at this and photographing it. And there's a lot in this particular landscape image, not the ones that I have clipped and shown here, but there's artificial structures, like something that looks like a cogwheel and some other form here, as if it's very large machinery. And like close to where the head is, there's an oblong or rectangular object with indentations in it. So this, again, is another form of artificiality that should not exist unless there is an intelligence that may have created it.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm getting at here is that when we look at Mars and we start to look at some of the stuff on the ground that looks like machinery or orbs, etc., that is an indication that Mars probably had an intelligent life form at one time. Now, I'm going to pull up another one that's going to give you a little more of a reveal, if I can find that for you. And okay, so this one here shows flying objects over the hilltops of Mars. Now, all of this is still in around the Gale crater, and I think that NASA and its scientists were well aware that there was some kind of artificial structures in this area, and they wanted to explore that. Plus the fact that if it was once a lake, there may be fossilized remnants of sea creatures, and perhaps something that was living close to the lake, which would indicate to be terrestrial or land-based creatures. But in these images here, you're seeing objects that are moving through space or the atmosphere down towards towards Mars. In the upper image, and I didn't realize this, but NASA is capable of taking video of their images as they go over the terrain. And so what we have in this one here is an object that is coming off the surface, and it's starting to move. And I've indicated this by the travel of the little white dot that you see, which we would probably label as Tic Tac or UAP. I still prefer the term UFO, but in reality, if we're seeing this on another planet, we've got to revise our terminology, and particularly even when we see things here on Earth flying around in the atmosphere or in orbit, and that terminology should be listed as ETV, extraterrestrial vehicles, because that's what they are. I mean, we could call it spacecraft, but we don't know if it travels through space. It may have the ability to be both an aerial as well as a spatial vehicle, okay? Again, we have similar images on the bottom here. Something, again, flying over the surface of Mars and was photographed by the space rover or the Martian rover at that time. And the colored ones on the bottom left, you can see that something is flying over the surface. And I've highlighted this and moved the colors around in order to bring out the clarity of what they're seeing. There's obviously some crafts are watching the rovers move around. Whatever NASA is doing, they're being watched.
Yeah.
Whether it's in around Earth orbit, whether it's around the moon, or now it's on Mars. And because they want to know just how far we are moving and progressing, and what are we looking for? What are we trying to do? These images on the bottom left here show another one of these orbs. And again, it has darkness underneath as if it is floating or hovering above the surface. And this is way off in the distance. I almost missed this, but I took the time to expand the image and look at it to see what rock anomalies I was going to find. And then I spotted this white speck and zoomed in on it, and this is what I'm finding. Again, this is similar to the other photographs that we've looked at, as well as many others that I have. The one above it is what looks like some kind of Land Cruiser. And I put an image up of a terrestrial RV camper in order to give some kind of comparison of shape to this anomaly that has been picked up by the Spirit rover. This is one of the last images before the Spirit rover stopped functioning. But you can see there's a lot of angular sides and corners on this, and the shadow in the appropriate places, there's indentations on it. Is this a rock formation? You know, there will be people who would debate and argue that, but I've also shown what I think is a reasonable guesstimation of it.
Yeah.
Now we're going to get into the really good stuff.
Uh-huh.
And excuse me. Let's see if I can get that. Okay, so a lot of people will have seen this particular image. This was one of the first humanoid type images taken by Spirit on Sol 1366 to 1369, and it's at a place called Home Plate.
We don't have a new picture yet.
Oh, don't you? My apologies. I thought we had that. Okay, give me a second here. I thought we had that already. Okay. You should have that.
Not yet. There
No,
you go. Yep, yep. That's
a little bit of a time delay there. Okay. So again, some people have questioned this and thought that it's probably just a rock formation, and that it's just it happens to look somewhat organic in shape and appearance, although you can kind of sort of detect what looks like a head, perhaps some facial features, an arm, and a torso with it's garbed in some robe or something. Again, this was taken in the Gustav crater area, and known as the West Valley on Mars. So we've seen this, and this goes back, and now I think a decade or two that this has been out.
Yeah, it's been around for quite a while, but this could very well be a rock. But we have rocks on Earth looking like that, and they're called statues.
Exactly.
Somebody made them.
That's exactly it. So why wouldn't they build a statue and left it there? And perhaps it was a guardian of some other features down below or off on the side. We don't know. But the thing is, it's interesting that it has a humanoid shape.
Yeah.
And, you know, I try not to jump to conclusions when I see things like this, because I know there's a part of me that says, hey, I see this, and is that pareidolia? Is my mind wanting to interpret something in an image that it understands? But sometimes if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck and flaps its wings like a duck, it must be a duck.
Yeah, and I think the pareidolia is not going to take this one away,
No,
because this look like a humanoid.
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at some more images that I think are even more impressive.
Yeah.
And let me see here. Okay, let's look at this one. Now, this has really got me questioning what I found. I believe that what I'm looking at is two small animal life forms on Mars. And when I was writing my book and I was researching, and I saw this image, and I blew it up, and I wanted to figure out what it was that I was looking at. They're saying this is a little piece of the parachute, or the that was part of the landing apparatus of the lander before it came down, and that it was just blowing around in the wind. And there's another image that shows four of these things on the edge of a crater, and they're all sort of odd shapes and what have you. But I looked at this and I started to play around with it. And this image was known at the time as the white Martian rabbit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so, or the white bunny. And this was taken by opportunity, if you notice in the upper left-hand corner. And it's got some kind of appendages and in the front, and some kind of looks like stubby feet or something in the back. So I went looking on the internet for something small, sort of like a rodent. Like I looked at rabbits and I looked at other life forms, and I kind of drew a picture around this of what I thought it was. And this, you notice that on the left portion of the image, the nose seems kind of reddish.
Yeah.
Well, as I kept looking and I highlighted it, and then I came across an image of a northwestern Australian bilby. A bilby is a long-eared rodent with a long tail. Well, my goodness, doesn't that seem to look very similar to that? And so I took a leap of faith and thought this was definitely some kind of Martian cousin to the bilby in Australia. And so I named it. I gave it, and I'm gonna probably mash this up terribly, but I called it Martis animalia chordate mammalian marsupial paramelamorphia thiac lactomidi macros lamcruria tibando. The only
Yeah.
part that I recognize is Tibando. But that I named it after me being the discoverer. Now, I think that whatever I find on Mars, NASA already knows it's there. They're
Yeah.
just not telling you. And this begs the question, when I'm looking at this, what am I looking at? Is it an actual life form on Mars? If it is, how do you account for the similarity between that animal on Mars and that which is found on Earth in Australia? If I play the devil's advocate and I go down all these questionings and what have you of what I think is going on, because if NASA is trying to experiment with its rovers on Earth before they send them to Mars, could they not have gone to northwestern Australia, which has a reddish background and sand? It has the right sort of conditions that look very similar to Mars. Or was it on Baffin Island or Devon Island in northern Canada? Or was it in one of the countries in northern Africa? Or is it in the Atacama Desert in South America? These are all areas that have similar features. I mean, there's places in the United States that are like this. So if that's the case, and they're showing that image, is that truly an image on Mars, or is it from one of the areas that they're utilizing to experiment with their rovers? So this means that if it's an animal that's on Earth, we caught them in a lie. If they are saying it's an animal on Mars, but they're not going to say that, then they
No.
haven't told us the whole truth. In other words, we caught NASA between a rock and a hard place. And I think they're going to have to come clean on this. But one animal by itself means nothing. So I went digging around to see what else is up there. And I came across this showing a lot of the rover tracks running all over the place. And it appears that as it was moving back and forth, that another little white bunny, which I use euphemistically, suddenly was running across the surface, kicking up some dust. And when you compare that with what we have may have on Earth, it looked to me like a mole. I've seen moles before. And so I went digging around and I found what appears to be a white marsupial mole. And guess where it's located? Northwestern Australia.
Okay.
So now this is really starting to build up something here that you can't have two animals that you discovered on Mars that looked exactly like the animals on Earth, unless we start to play another game is, what did Martians come from there and brought these animals and they dropped them off in an area on Earth that was similar to their climate? Or did we, in some ancient past that we've long forgot, gone to Mars and taken some of our animals with them and put them in areas of similar terrain as we have on Earth? They've always said that Mars is truly more of a cousin planet to Earth than Venus is, even though Venus is approximately the same size as Earth. Mars seems to be indicating that it is very similar to Earth. It had at one time oceans on
Yep.
it and
And
and all the rest of it.
in fact, there's also vegetation and trees up there. There's NASA prints showing that.
Exactly. And so the thing that I wanted to show in this was, here's this animal running across the desert of Mars, leaving a track and kicking up dust. And then below that, or beside it, is the white marsupial mole leaving a track in a similar desert-like area. And so I'd blown them up, and I wanted to compare what I'm seeing. The two images below are white marsupial moles, but I think the middle image seems to show you the rippling effect of its movement as compared to the one from Mars. So again, I took the opportunity to name this animal and in the hopes that maybe it truly is a Martian creature. And again, it's abbreviated to be the Tibando white marsupial Martian mole. And I found these back in 2013. I've been sitting on these for a while because I wanted to see if anybody else found them. And it doesn't appear that anybody has come out with this. So I'm now making sure that they're released. I did put them on my Facebook account, CSETI Vancouver, and you can scroll down through it and you'll see some of these photographs.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you can also see there's almost like these facial features on it.
Yeah, yeah, particularly with the bilby. There's a lesser and a greater bilby, and they have this white grayish fur on them. And
Yeah, there's kind of like an indentation where would be an eye.
yep, yeah, you can see that.
Yeah,
And so, I didn't tamper with these photographs at all. All I've done is I've altered the color by doing an auto correct, or in the case of the bilby, I drew lines around what I thought was its shape. It's
yeah.
approximate. It's not completely accurate, but it's accurate enough that you can draw similarities to the actual image of the bilby. Okay, the next one I want to show is perhaps my most intriguing one, and let's see if I can find that. Let's see, is that it? No, that's not it. Okay.
I see.
Now, let me just make sure that you're getting this.
Huh?
Just give me a second. You should have that.
Yeah, you have a picture up here.
You got it?
Yep.
Okay. What you're looking at here is what I believe is a fossilized Martian cadaver or humanoid. And when I was, and the image I showed before of what I thought was a land cruiser or spacecraft is just above the picture. So this is only part of the picture. And I have the whole panoramic view of it. And this area that you're looking at is like a little mini valley of interesting objects and what have you. And so when I explored this particular image, I saw the geometric anomalous object, and I was about to click off and move on to some other image. And then something in the picture caught my eye, and I thought, there's something familiar about this picture, these images. And I looked at it, and I thought, oh my God, it's a body. And I couldn't believe that that's what it was. But
Is it possible to blow it up a
yeah,
little?
I certainly can. Let me just see. Hopefully this will do it. Okay, I'll have to do this manually. Okay, how's that?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, so there's a something above where this body is in the middle. It looks like another creature, and I assumed that it, and probably incorrectly, but it looked like to me a tapir. Tapir is a very large mammal. It has sort of round ears that stick up and has a kind of a snout. It looks like a pig, but a much different type, and it's got a similar feature. Now, I asked a specialist in tapirs who does forensics on this, and I didn't tell her what the picture was. I said, "Can you tell me if this is a tapir?" And she looked at it, and she said, "I can't tell from that information unless I was there examining it." And I said, "Well, it's not likely you're ever going to examine this. It's on Mars." But
Yeah.
the thing is, that's what it looks like to me. I can't prove it. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's out there for debate. Below this is what I thought was a cetacean,
Yeah.
a whale. In other words, now this of all the images in this overall panoramic shot is the most questionable because I'm really stretching my imagination somewhat. And I
Yeah.
did find images of small whales, like to compare it with. And there appears to be a flipper on right here. I don't know if anybody can see that.
That's a new picture.
Pardon me?
Is that a new picture?
A new creature or picture?
Uh, did you go to the next picture, or is it the same one?
This is the same one. I'm just sort of showing what's in this image.
Okay.
But the thing that attracted my attention was this, what I believe is a cadaver.
Yeah.
And again, there's this object that I mentioned, looks like a gun turret or a turret of some kind, and lying next to the body. My conclusion, and I realize that it's just my opinion, it's open for debate, but this may have been the pilot to the craft. And when it crashed, for whatever reason or whatever destruction or calamity, catastrophe took place, he was blown out of the craft. And what you see here is another part of what looks like his body. That looks like there's an arm and other possible body parts. I'm going to show another image that will show this a little clearer.
Okay. Yeah, we're getting down to the end of the show here too.
Okay, well, that's not too bad. I'll try and get through a lot of this. Let's see. No, we've seen that one already. Sorry.
Okay, we've seen this one.
Okay, let me just pull this out properly. And okay, here it is. And sure. All right. Here we see what I believe is the body. Now, when you take this piece of what I think is the rib cage, and you cut and you paste it and you put it over where the rest of the body is, it fits.
Uh-huh.
And when you examine this, you can kind of see what looks like a long neck, a skull, and some kind of facial features. There could be eye sockets. I'm not certain. It's the angle that's making it a little bit hard. But I've listed what I thought was the parts of the body, and then I compared it to a human cadaver. And you can see that when you compare there's rib caging on the Martian humanoid, and there's rib cage on the human. There's a neck that seems somewhat long, not maybe as long as what the Martian has, and there's a skull and there's an arm and all the rest of it. So what I'm saying is I'm using what we have here on Earth to compare with what I'm finding on Mars, including the body. Now, this is only one skeleton that has been found. Another individual came across another skeleton, and I don't know if I've got it here or not. Again, bear with me on this. If I don't have it, we'll have to share it for some other time. But
we are just about a minute away from the end here.
Okay, so let's jump ahead then to Pluto. This is what I'm finding on Pluto.
Okay.
Giant gastropods. And what we're seeing, you can see the tracks. And I have one image that gives a section of Pluto, and it gives a measurement of 35 miles. And if I was to take that linear length and place it on the image of where these black blobs are, you'd find that you could barely see the length of that, but it's there. And these tracks are, in my estimation, about a kilometer in width, maybe a bit more, maybe a bit less. So what does that tell you? Well, if we're looking at these black blobs are at least a kilometer in width, possibly 2 or 3 kilometers in length. They look like gastropods. And in fact, I'll see if I can blow this one up because it's well worth seeing it. Yeah, here we go.
Yeah, and
notice there's a shell on that. And if you compare it with all the other terrestrial gastropods, like this one over here on the upper right, and the one down below, and the one over on the bottom left, you're going to say, my God, these are giant gastropods or snails. But they're not just the little couple of inches or 6 inches long type of snail or slug that we come across here. And this is not including what's in the ocean, because there are ocean type slugs and land-based type slugs. But these are the mammoth. They are the gigantic snails and slugs on the surface. And they all, if you notice on these two pictures on the that are black and white, but with a bit of color, they got little feelers or antennae on them.
Yep, I see that.
And the one above definitely has a shell, and the one on the bottom may have a shell, but it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
But the thing here is, how does a creature that large come into existence? And somebody said to me, and I would agree with them, that it's due to the gravity of Pluto as compared to the gravity of Earth. Pluto is smaller than Mars. And so, and Earth, we do have large aquatic and land-based animals, but to find something again that is so reminiscent on our planet, and now we're finding it on another planet, begs the question, how is that possible?
Yep.
What's going on?
That's a phenomenal picture right there. But now we're out of time, so we let people know again where they can get your 6 volumes. And,
yes. Okay. So if people want to get them, all you have to do is go online, type in your favorite bookstore, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Hudson Books, Booktopia, Bookworld. That's in the States. There's many, many more. You can go into Indigo and Chapters and go online on their system. That's in Canada to order those books. They're literally, these books are selling internationally. I've had people in Britain buy them, people in the States, people in Canada, people in Germany. One person now in Australia has got it. I've sent one book off to a fella in Israel and one off to a person in Japan. I'm trying to get the word out.
Yeah.
I don't care if I make any money at this. I want people to be informed. And my basic mantra and motto is research, research, research. If you do that, you're going to find exactly what I found if it's still available to you.
That sounds good. All right. Well, thank you very much for being with us. And there's more to talk about. So I'd like to
Yes.
have you back sometime.
I'm available, and just so you know, I really appreciate being interviewed by you. I think you and I are very much of like-mindedness, and I know that what I showed you today is just a tip of the iceberg. There is so much more, but if you really want to invest your money wisely and you want to get a university quality type textbook, I would say order the first volume of A Citizen's Disclosure on UFOs and ETI. It's 840 pages, and the price will vary depending which country you're in or what bookstore you're ordering from.
Okay.
But it's well worth it.
Okay. Thank you very much. And then thank you. We will be back next week. And until then, be good to each other.